Welcome to a movie-sized review of the new Alienware Area 51 R2 with 32 gigs of RAM, a 500 gig SSD, the 12 gig Titan Z graphics card, and an overclocked 8-core Core i7-5960X processor. This expensive top-end computer costs 3 months of my wage as an early childhood educator, so I certainly will be reviewing it critically since it burned a massive hole in my wallet. Unless you have a lot of time on your hands or really enjoy review videos, check out the table of contents in the description of this video to find the parts you are interested in rather than watching this entire video. First, I'll be unboxing this beast of a computer and going through the basics of opening it, adding a new hard drive to it, and changing its lighting colors. If you get this computer with the awesome 1500 watt power supply like I did, you may realize that you won't be able to plug it into your wall unless you get an electrician to install a 15 amp power point, since by default all homes in Australia only come with 10 amp power points. Don't take my word on it though, hear it officially in an interview I have with my electrician later in the video. Throughout this review, I am constantly comparing the Alienware Area 51 to my Lenovo S20 ThinkStation computer that cost the same price as this Alienware 4.5 years ago. The ThinkStation has a 6-core Intel Xeon W3680 processor, 12 gigs of RAM, and an Nvidia Quattro 3800FX. After performing some basic tests like boot up and shutdown speeds, I start setting up commonly used software on my computer. I then move on to testing out 1440p gaming with 9 different games at low and high settings. I also see how recording with fraps affects the frame rate on both computers and compile the results into a chart. I then use benchmarking software such as Teragen 3, NovaBench, Heaven, and HyperPy on both computers to compare the results. Towards the end of the video, I also see how good the Alienware is at video rendering with Sony Vegas, and give the Oculus Rift a go while standing, which is an awesome experience with the Alienware, but a terrible one with my Lenovo. I also give Bitcoin mining a go on both computers, and redid the boot and shutdown test to see if the Alienware would slow down after installing all my software onto it, and the results were quite surprising. Please note that most of this review is recorded in 1080p and 30 frames per second. However, since some parts, especially the screen recordings of the games, are in 1440p at 60 frames per second, I've decided to upload the video in 1440p and 60 FPS for those interested. So sit back now and enjoy this epic review of this awesome computer. Here it is, the Alienware Area 51 computer that has finally arrived, the 2014 model. This thing, well, the box is huge. I doubt the computer is going to be this big, but this box is pretty huge. The delivery guy kind of brought it in and he was like, and he's like, this is 50 kilos. It's the biggest computer I've ever seen in my life. So it is pretty massive. It's not a square computer, it is a triangular kind of computer, so it's not going to be taking up all this space. Okay, I'm opening the top of it now. So here's what it looks like straight away when you open it. I've never actually unboxed a desktop computer before, even though this is my 4th one in my life. I've just never unboxed one before, so this is a pretty crazy experience for me. So I'll take out all these top components one by one and we'll have a little look at them. So the first thing I'm guessing is the Alienware keyboard, and as you can see there's a nice shiny logo on the front of it. Here we go, this is the Alienware keyboard. Looks like it's a backlit keyboard, so it would be great for nighttime. I haven't typed on a normal keyboard for a while, so this does feel a little strange to me. It is a full-size keyboard. So this is what the keyboard looks like up front. It's actually a pretty big keyboard. However, I am noticing these keys don't feel completely square. I don't know what it is, but they just feel a bit small to compare to what I'm used to. They seem a bit like squashed in my opinion, but at the same time I do personally own an ergonomic keyboard, a Microsoft Sculpt keyboard, which took me a while to get used to, so this is kind of like going a step back and going back to a normal keyboard rather than an ergonomic one, which is a bit of a shock to me. Overall, the keys feel really easy to press. When you press down on them, barely any force is needed. You kind of just press, and if you rest your finger on a key, that simple action of resting is enough actually to let the key go down. So there's not much pressure or force required to press each of these keys. I'll plug this into the Alienware computer later and we'll have a little look at what it looks like when it's all lit up. I'm going to be completely honest with you, this next thing in the box, I have no idea what it is, but I guess I'll find out in a moment and I'll feel really silly. So later on, I promise you, I'll tell you what this weird looking thing is. We've also got a CD in here, and it's the Resource DVD. And next we've got a mouse. It looks actually like a standard mouse. Okay, so here's what the mouse looks like. We'll take the plastic off it. Oh wow, it's really shiny. Look at that. Oh wow, that scroll wheel is really weird on it. Look at this. It's kind of like an actual wheel and it hasn't got like curved edges like, well, most of the wheels I'm used to. But yeah, that is really, really shiny. In fact, when you look at it, it's a little too shiny because it's actually exposing how I'm filming this video. I'm putting a camera on a chair, which is a really dodgy way of doing it. Let's give the mouse a little whirl now. It's quite comfortable. I'm not really a mouse person, I'm a trackball person, but it's nice to have a spare mouse around in the house, so that'll definitely come to use someday. Okay, and the other thing we've got in the top here is the power cord. Pretty standard looking if you ask me. In case you're an American watching this, this is what Australian power plugs look like. They are diagonal, so don't think that it's bent or anything. It's supposed to look like this. Looks like that might be it. So we'll take out this top bit of the packaging. We've got some warranty information and safety. So that's everything at the top. That's the top unpackaged. At least you know now the computer is that much smaller, so it's not as big as we originally thought. Let's just hope it's even more smaller. There you go, you can see the computer in there. And it is, as you can see, a triangular shape, so it's not going to be a big rectangle like that, thank goodness. Okay, here we go. We'll take out these sides now. Take the top protection off. There's a lot of protection. Now, just so you can see, the Alienware computer is a lot smaller than you'd think it is. See, in the box, it's this tiny little thing. What I like about this is you can see that it's really easy to get everything into the ports here at the back because it's not like a rectangular and you're kind of like doing it sideways, you're kind of doing it in a diagonal shape. Just like with the front ports, there's not that many ports on it actually. I'm going to try and lift it and I'll give you an idea of how heavy it is. The triangular shape is technically supposed to make it easier to carry. Let's just see if that's true. Can't even lift it out. It's too heavy. I think I'll have to tip this box sideways to get it out. Otherwise I'm just going to be here all day trying to lift it up and I'll break my back. Sorry, that was an absolute nightmare getting it out of the box, but as you can see, it is a lot smaller than the box. It's not as big as you would think it is when you look at the box. So the general idea behind the design I've heard is that cold air kind of drifts in through here, and it goes through the computer and then it's easier for hot air to escape because of the fact that it's pointing somewhat upright. See, so hot air, as you know, moves up, so it's easier for it to go up like that rather than out the back. Most people, including me, have their computers pretty close to the wall, down under their desk, and there's not really much space if you've got your computer right up to the wall here for it to have any breathing room. The good thing about this is that it's facing up this way. So even if you put it right up against the wall, like let's say right here, like that, you've still got a bunch of breathing room there for the computer to, you know, blow out its hot air, and rather than being a complete vertical shape and being right up against the wall. So here's what it looks like at the back of the computer. At the bottom here, this is obviously where you plug it into the wall. You've got two DVI ports, display port here, a HDMI. With my old computer, I had to use a DVI converter and then have that to HDMI, so that'll be good that it's got a HDMI cord right there. Imagine sticking this thing into a TV. Although I've only got a 26-inch TV, so it wouldn't be too interesting. So here we've got USB 2.0 ports, Ethernet port, some USB 3.0 ports here, super speed it looks like, and just some other audio ports there. It's got Windows 8 Pro on it. Now at the front of the computer, you've got the power button, which is actually the Alienware logo, so that's your power button. Take off these bits of plastic. Wow, it's nice and shiny. Oh my goodness, I've never seen this before. Look, it takes CDs vertically. You've got your headphone jack, microphone. You've also got at the front here two USB 3.0 ports and an SD card reader. Earlier I said I don't know what this thing is, but if you look in the quick guide, it says it is the stability foot. So you install that onto it to keep it stable. And just for those who want to have a little look, it tells you all the ports here. Next we're going to take a little look inside the computer at what processor and graphics card and so on that I chose. You can have up to 3 graphics cards in this computer, which is pretty insane. Now this computer opens from both sides and it's really easy to open. You just put your hand in here, flick that switch open and then try and open it. You can't open it straight away when you first buy it because you first got to turn off the safety switch. So you get this little screwdriver, unscrew it, flick that across, then you can start opening. So it's currently locked, I'll unlock it now. Okay, so I'm just using a screwdriver just to untwist the screw. Dang it! Hi there.
Yes, hello, good morning. Menu 3, thanks calling from...
The screwdriver was just in that little hole there. Now it should be unlocked, so I can flick this open and open it. That is really easy. It's like opening a car door. I love how easy it is to open. Now the max power is 1500 watts, which is pretty crazy. Now if we come up here, you'll see that there's 32 gigabytes of quad channel RAM DDR4 at 2133 megahertz. Now you can actually stack 1, 2, 3, I've only got 1, but 3 graphics cards in this computer. And that is absolutely insane. Now this exact graphics card you're looking at here is an NVIDIA GeForce GTX Titan Z. So this is a very powerful one. You can actually put even 2 Titan Zs in this computer, but I'm not doing that because seriously, one of these is enough. With the Titan Z, you've got 12 gigabytes of video RAM. This can actually support 3 4K monitors, so that is pretty insane. It has 5,760 CUDA cores, a base clock MHz of 705, a boost clock of 876, a text to fill rate of billion per second is 338 billion per second, a memory speed of 7 GB per second, and a memory bandwidth of 672 GB per second. So that is a pretty insane graphics card. Imagine having 2 in your computer. You would have 24 gig of video RAM. The one in my current computer is Quattro 3800 FX with just 1 gig of video RAM. So I'm hoping that this will be able to run the Oculus Rift at 75 frames per second because that's what I'm aiming for. I also do a lot of video rendering, as you know, so hopefully it'll help out with that. Now the processor in this computer is an Intel Core i7-5960X with 8 cores overclocked to 4.0 GHz with the turbo boost. So that is pretty insane. My current processor is a Xeon or Xeon or whatever you want to call it processor. I can't say exactly what it is. More for workstations, as you know, but that processor has 6 cores at 3.3 gigahertz per second, and obviously it can't be overclocked. But this one can be overclocked, so this is going to be a new experience for me. Over here I've got a 512 gigabyte solid state drive that apparently runs at 6 gigabytes per second. This is the main drive. This is where all my programs and stuff is going to be stored. Over here I've got a 4 terabyte drive, and this is the biggest drive I've ever seen in my whole life. I know you can get 6 terabyte normal hard drives, but the biggest hard drive that fits in my current computer is a 2 terabyte hard drive because my BIOS in my Lenovo ThinkStation S20 does not support anything bigger than 2 terabytes. Now the first thing I think when I see this is, oh no. I've been brought up to think, okay, hard drives are supposed to be like this. They shouldn't be upside down, they shouldn't be sideways, they shouldn't be vertical, and this is doing everything wrong in my eyes. However, according to hardware manufacturers, it is absolutely fine to have the drives at any orientation, as long as they're not like diagonal or anything. You can have them like that in like 6 degrees of rotation or something. It can be like that, but not diagonally sideways kind of thing. Now, since we've got the computer opened up, I may as well do what I wanted to do to it inside. I bought a 3 terabyte hard drive about 6 months ago, but unfortunately it did not support my computer, which is a Lenovo ThinkStation S20 here. It doesn't actually support 3 terabyte hard drives, so I kind of put it in, it started corrupting everything on the computer, then, you know, overriding itself once it got above about 1 terabyte of usage. It was detecting it as an 800 gigabyte drive. It was an absolute nightmare trying to install a 3 terabyte hard drive into this computer, and in the end I just had to say, nah, I'm taking this out, it'll be for my next computer. Anyway, I'm going to use an anti-static kit, because when you're touching hard drives and stuff like that, you never want to touch any insides of the computer with your bare hands. You always want to use an anti-static kit, because static in your hands and stuff, as soon as you touch it, you can destroy parts of the computer. So for those wondering, the drive itself that I'm about to stick into this is a Seagate SV35 3000 gigabytes, which is 3 terabytes. So I'm going to have a 4 terabyte and a 3 terabyte in here, which is a total of about 7 terabytes. plus the 512GB SSD, and I'll also be adding a 2TB hard drive up here. I am going to be taking out some of the hard drives from my old computer and putting it in this one. My hard drives from my old computer sit like this though, rather than like this or like that. So what you've got to make sure you do is you definitely want to format those drives before you put them into the computer, because sometimes, mainly older drives, but it could happen with newer drives too, is when you have it in a different position after it's been sitting in a certain position for a few years and you change the orientation, then that can cause it to have a few errors and stuff when you try and install it in a new computer, because its driver's head and gravity can pull the disk into a different position, and when it's trying to read and write it can stuff some things up. So if you've got an old computer and you want to put the drive in a different orientation, you definitely want to maybe transfer all the information off the drive to a new drive, which is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to transfer when I put my 2TB one in there. This one you actually need these special screws that look like this to go in there and to get it into the computer, but unfortunately I don't have those screws. And as you can see, my old case, you don't actually need any screws. It just kind of flips open like that and pops in. On the topic of my old computer, this is how the drives sit in it, just like that, 1, 2, 3 on top of each other. And if you're one of those people who want to have a little look inside, that's what it looks like. I just went to the shop then, I showed them the little black screw here, and they gave me this screw. They got me 8 of them, because I'll be using about 8 of them. Very similar to this, it's slightly longer, but they said it'll fit, it'll just stick out a little bit. So I'm going to put in that hard drive now, like I said I would. Okay, there we go. This main hard drive is secure, just like the one I just put in. So they're both in securely. I've got my 512GB, my 4TB, and my 3TB drive, and I'll put a 2TB up there another day. So here it is, the Alienware Area 51 fully unboxed, and don't worry, I will put the computer on the stabilizer foot. So what we're going to do next is we're going to hook this computer up. We're going to have this computer and my old computer running at the same time, and we're going to do a lot of benchmarks. Not straight away. First of all, we'll just test out the speed of this computer a little bit. But one thing that's very important here when I'm doing the benchmarks, I'm going to load up the software from my old computer onto my new computer. That way we're truly testing what is the Alienware Area 51 really like when you've got all your software on it. Not, oh, out of the box, this is blazing fast, because as you know, when you put antivirus software on and all the other stuff, the computer will slow down. So we want to find out exactly how fast is this computer really, not comparing, oh, here's an old computer with all my software on it, let's compare it to a new computer with absolutely no software on it pretty much, and see which is faster. But with the solid state drive in this will definitely be faster than my old computer. Anyway, let's get it hooked up. Okay, so I'm getting ready to plug both computers in at the same time. This one is just going to plug over there, but I want to try and keep this one away from there because I don't want too much, you know, power points and stuff. There's already a bunch of power cords and stuff over here, so I'm going to try and plug it in over there. But have a look at the difference between these two computers. The Alienware is slightly taller, so it is a bigger computer than my old one here, but it's more powerful, a lot more powerful. Anyway, we're going to have a good look at all the lighting effects and stuff on the computer once I've booted it up, as well as how fast it boots out of the box. Like, seriously, I'm interested to know, without any programs on it, solid state drive, fresh install, how fast can it boot? And as a joke, I'll compare the boot time of this computer to this computer with all the software on it. Then I'll do another boot test again once we've got all the software on this new computer. You have got to be kidding me. Look at this. See that? I thought, oh yeah, it's just a normal Australian thing, it will fit in, and then I go and put it in and I'm like, oh, why won't it go in? Problem is that this bottom prong is so huge and I can't fit it in there, so now I've got to try and work out what is going on. After a few hours of research, I realised that the Alienware Area 51 with the 1500 watt power supply needs to be plugged into a 15 amp power point rather than the standard 10 amp power point. As these are not commonly installed in Australian homes, I had to get an electrician to install one for me on its own circuit. Here's a few words from Josh, the electrician, about 15 amp power points. So when are they usually required?
Okay, well, a 15 amp power point is required for whenever an outlet is going to pull more than 10 amps. Now, on a normal standard power point in Australia, 240 volt power point, each side of a double power point is only rated to 10 amps maximum. That's why they always tell you it's dangerous to use double adapters and things like that. You should always use power boards, because a power board will actually have an overload. You can plug 4 things into it, but you still can't pull more than 10 amps. 15 amps, obviously, you get something that uses more wattage, you need a stronger power point to supply that power, because the 10 amp one, after a while, will fail because it's not built to pass the larger amount of current.
Let's say if I put a a 10 amp power cord in the computer, that would eventually burn out if I used it on the Alienware, wouldn't it?
That's right. Look, it would probably be okay for a little while. And then being an electrician, I've seen this a lot of times. People will get the 15 amp power point and just cut a little bit off the pin, off the earth pin, so that it still fits into a 10 amp power point. It's all very well and good. It will work, and with your computer it'll probably work for a long time. As you know, with computers, the power rating of the computer isn't always what's being used all the time, only when the computer's at full capacity. So it would be okay, but eventually it's going to be drawing more than 10 amps, eventually it's going to cook that power point. And when I say cook, I mean heat, and heat, we all know what can happen when you get too much heat. Flames and fire, and that's something that we don't want with electricity.
As you can see now, I've got a 15 amp power point in here with the longer earthing or grounding prong, whatever you want to call it. So now I can just stick this straight in. We'll flick the switch, press the Alien button, and let's watch this puppy boot. There's all the lights coming up. Now that the computer's booting for the first time, it's going to go through the setup process with Alienware and Windows 8 and all that. So the first thing is Alienware updates to keep your system up to date and allow Alienware to provide streamlined support. Check both boxes below, so I've got my email in there, and then I just tick these. Then you just go through the basic Windows 8 stuff, what would you like, yada yada yada. Usually I'd go for a bluish colour, but I'm going to go through this orangey yellow colour, just something nice, new and bright, because it's something I don't do every day. Okay, hooking up to Wi-Fi, and boy, there are a lot of Wi-Fi things near me. See this get online? I've forgotten to do something here. I forgot to plug my computer into the Ethernet port here. Now this is pretty funny because my old desktop computer did not have Wi-Fi. But here with this Alienware, this actually has Wi-Fi built in as well as Bluetooth. And if the Wi-Fi feature alone is amazing me with this computer, imagine how amazed I'll be when I actually start using it. So now my computer's booted straight into Windows 8.1. It's copied the background on my Microsoft Surface Pro. Now pre-installed here, I can see the Alienware Command Center, Stage Light, and Steam. The thing I love about this is I am hooked up via the DisplayPort. Unlike my old computer, I didn't need to install this monitor so it would work in 1440p. When I tried this on my other computer, you can look in the monitor upgrade video, I actually had to plug it in via DVI first and then get all these drivers so that the DisplayPort would work. The Alienware Area 51 straight out of the box supports this monitor, 1440p and DisplayPort. It is brilliant. Now the first thing we'll do here is open up the Alienware Command Center. Oh wow, look at this. It's got all the thermal ratings of the computer. Anyway, let's go to AlienFX. And we're going to try out some of the different colours you can do with the computer. You can actually change the colour. So if I click green here, okay, well that's made that thing green in there on that side. You actually click what you want to change. Let me just click select all zones. So if you click green now, that makes everything down there green, and the green looks pretty cool. I've got to say that just looks awesome. What I'll do is I'll just turn the lights off in the room now, and we'll play around with some of the colours and see what it all looks like. So this is green, lighter green, a yellowish colour, getting more into orange now, and red. That red just looks pure, it looks so scary. You got a pink colour, pink yet again. Moving on over to purple now. Black just turns all the lights off. There's the default blue, lighter blue, and all the way back into green again. Now you can do pulse, so it's far out lightning storm already, and I think that looks pretty cool. Like when I put it, like you can really give it a style. It's like yellow. There's like an emergency when I see this. It's like, oh my gosh. You can set it to morph colors. So let's say you set it to orange and green here to morph. It'll actually start off as green, morph to orange, then flick back to green again, which is pretty cool. Look at that. Okay, the first thing I've done now on my computer is open up Internet Explorer so I can go and download Firefox. Run. Okay, so it's now downloading. I keep forgetting this is Windows 8 when I see these little messages up here, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, this is Windows 8. On my main computer, I've always used Windows 7, so it's a bit crazy seeing Windows 8 here. Now with Firefox installed, we're going to compare the boot speed of the computers now from the moment the BIOS is displayed to the moment Firefox opens and loads a Google page. Because I know on my old computer, the desktop will show, sure, but then it's another 2 minutes before you can open an application. So this way we can see when the computer's really ready to use rather than when it's just seeing the desktop for the first time. Start. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to be ready to click on Firefox. It should auto sign in this time, and then I'll click stop the moment I see Google appear. Oh, okay, there we go. This is up. Google. Okay, stop. There we go. 11.2 6.8 seconds. So that is ultra fast. The computer is ready to use. Oh my gosh. That's like turning on a tablet computer. That's like how fast this thing is. Of course, we are going to redo this test once again because obviously, once I load a bunch of programs onto it, the computer will be a lot slower. PC's just booted, the mouse isn't working yet. Okay, mouse is working, clicking Firefox. So there we go, 3 minutes and 46 seconds just to boot and bring up Firefox and load the Google homepage. That is ridiculously slow. Okay, now we're going to see how fast the computer can shut down. So from the moment I click this shutdown button to the moment the computer is fully off, that's how we'll measure how fast it shuts down. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, you couldn't quite see that, but the Alienware computer turned off just a moment ago and I tracked it just on the spot, and the time it took was 6.9 seconds, so that is very, very fast. In fact, I was probably slow to react, so that might even be 6.5 seconds there. But overall, that is a very, very fast shutdown time. Now that my new Alienware computer is ready to use, it's plugged into the new 15 amp power point at the wall that was just installed today. I'll go through the process of installing all the common programs that I use on a day-to-day basis. The first of which is a program called Action, which I'll be using to record the screen, so you don't have to watch me from this silly viewing angle here. You can actually see what I'm doing on the screen. Okay, the first thing we're going to do today is go on a website recommended to me by Epic Pixel Gaming on YouTube called Nenet.com or something like that. I can't quite pronounce it, I'm afraid. The basic idea is that you choose a bunch of programs that you want to install on your computer and it'll install them all in one nice, easy to use package. So the programs I'm going to get are for the web browser, well actually Firefox, I already got it, I won't need to get it. I will need to get Skype, VLC Player, iTunes, Audacity. I love to use Audacity for audio. This is VLC Player is great for looking at some videos and stuff on my computer. It has a bunch of built-in codecs, which is great. I'm going to install all the runtimes because I know at one point I'm eventually going to need all of these on my computer anyway. I'm not going to get any of these because I use Adobe Fireworks, which I'll install just after I've gone through this program. I will get Adobe Reader. That's one thing I'll need. OpenOffice is great, but I'm actually a Microsoft Office Word kind of a user and PowerPoint and all of that. For virus scanners, I use AVG as my live virus scanner. Malwarebytes is kind of a backup one when I do a scan occasionally with that. I do use these two. These are my favorite. I'm going to get Google Earth. You'll notice that Steam is actually pre-installed. So with Alienware computers, I've just noticed that they always just give you Steam pre-installed on it, obviously because Alienware computers, most people game on them, so of course it's going to include Steam. TeamViewer will be used for remote viewing and stuff like that. I also want WinRAR Classic Shell. This is something I'd really love to have because I'm not a fan of clicking this and it brings me to this screen, you know, it's just not my thing. So I'm going to have that Classic Shell installed. Let's get the installer and see how this goes. Okay, start. Already done. Now let's see how this goes. Okay, it's going to download each of these applications. Oh, it downloads and installs them one by one. Okay. So it actually downloads them all first as fast as it can. Okay, you know what? This program is really well optimized. That is a great idea. All the common programs that people use, put them in an installer, it'll download all of them, and as it's downloading them, it'll install them in order. That's just great, and I think this will save a lot of time. This is the perfect situation to use it when you've just got a new computer. So thank you, Epic Pixel Gaming. This was a great idea to recommend me this product, which is completely free, and that's awesome. Now, while that installs all my programs here, I'll just show you what I've got here. So this is what I'm going to do with all my drives on my computer. The C drive, as you know, is the 512GB SSD drive with Windows on it. This is just going to include the programs on my computer. Nothing else, just programs. Downloads are going to go in here in my D drive, which is the 4GB drive. Screen recording, pretty much everything. All my data, videos, that kind of thing will go on the D drive. This drive needs to be formatted because this is the corrupted 3 TB, and as you can see, perfect. It is detecting this just fine on this computer. It's gone, hey, look at this. It is a 3 terabyte drive. So this drive will be the drive I'll use while I'm working on video. So this will kind of be the rendering drive where I render large videos. I'll also have all my Steam games and stuff on this D drive. Oh, look at that. I didn't even notice. Classic Start. I full on just clicked that and I was like, oh, cool. Classic Start is here. Oh, and I love it's transparent as well. Look at that. So that's fantastic. I'm going to add my programs there because it looks a little bare. I'll add Firefox. Steam. Yeah, there we go. That looks like a more usable start menu now, so all my programs are there. Fantastic. This is really good. In this segment, I will be testing the average frame rate of 9 games on my old and new computer. All games will be running at 1440p on their lowest settings, followed by their highest settings, and then once again on their highest settings while being recorded with fraps. I'll be testing the open world driving game set in America known as The Crew, as well as the open world hacking game Watch Dogs. I will also be checking out another Ubisoft game known as Far Cry 3 and the popular blocky world building game known as Minecraft. The very difficult to run GTA 4 will also be tested, along with Fallout New Vegas, Starbound, Saints Row 4 and Blockscape. Now this game is not running well at all. I'm getting about 12 to 13 frames with a peak of, oh there we go, I got 16. So let's see what average I can get here. Let's just keep driving around. This is just the beginning of the game. I actually haven't played this game before, but it's a pretty cool game because apparently it's got the whole of America or something in it. So that sounds pretty cool. It takes, I heard, at least 40 minutes to go from one side of the map to the other. So it's a pretty big map, and that's if you've got a pretty fast car too. And if you do a big circle around the whole map, apparently that takes 4 hours. And it's all on-road, off-road, you can go anywhere, there's no invisible walls. That's what I think is really cool about this. So I'm going to average this at about 15 frames per second on low settings. Okay, so I'm going to put video present here, I'm going to bump that up to high, to ultra, apply. Okay, so now at ultra settings here, I'm getting a frame rate. And yes, this is very uncontrollable here. 10 frames per second. Let's see what it is when I'm recording now. Recording, oh, this is awful. I'm only getting 9, 8. Let's say 8 or 9. About 9 frames per second. This is just terrible. 8 frames, oh no, okay, I'll say 9 frames on average when it's recording. Okay, we're going to run The Crew on the lowest settings right now. Just note that I unfortunately can't fit speakers on my desk because I've only got room for the Alienware on the computer right now, just because I'm renovating my room and I don't want the computer on the ground while it's being renovated, and it's just a crazy situation. I've actually only got this computer here for 2 days here in the bedroom, so it's a bit nuts before I have to take it somewhere else. But let's have a little look at what this looks like. So right now I'm getting 60 frames per second. This is up from 15 frames, so this is looking fantastic. Let's look. So this is lowest settings. Wow, I'm getting a stable 60 frames per second here. Okay, what we might do is we might bump this up now to ultra settings. Ultra settings, everything's on the highest possible. Okay, we are now on ultra settings. And I'm still getting a stable 60 frames per second. This is amazing. Look at this, 60 frames. On ultra. Last of all, we're going to test out how it goes if you are recording. Now this, I feel, is going to drop dramatically. It'll probably be like 20 frames per second. I can't believe though, comparing this, where I had 10 frames per second before. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's down to 50. Down to 47. Okay, so I'm getting a bit of a drop down to 50 here. So I might call this 55 because it's kind of bumped between 60 and stuff like that. So we'll call this 5 frames per second. So now let's do some recording. Okay, we're recording right now at 30 frames per second, okay. And that's a stable 30 frames per second, I see. I have a feeling though that Fraps is limiting this to 30 frames per second. Oh, yikes. But yeah, this is pretty amazing. I always thought, oh, the graphics of this game look a little bland, but when you have them on Ultra, it actually looks pretty good. I mean, look at that detail there. And think this is like almost the whole of, well, pretty much the whole of North America here, but compressed. Look at that, being able to look at a shop, seeing the clothes and the shoes in that shop. Oh, okay, so I'm getting 60 frames per second now. So let's see if I can upkeep this 60 frames per second, and then if I can upkeep the 60 frames per second, I guess we can say, yeah, I can record with the crew at 60 frames per second. Down to 50, 30 now. Okay, so it's kind of popping between 60 and 30. Yep, now it's back up to 60. But it's very, very smooth. This is like, you could definitely record and run this at ultra settings on this computer. Because, I mean, 30 to 60 frames per second as like a stable, that's fantastic. The only thing about this game I don't like is the occasional camera glitch, but Ubisoft should fix that pretty soon. Now, unfortunately, I'm actually unable completely to run Watch Dogs at all on this old computer. As you can see, you actually need, as a minimum, Pixel Shader 5.0, and I've only got 4.0, and this is part of the graphics card. You can't update this via software, you have to do it via replacing the graphics card with a newer graphics card. So we'll see how the new computer can run this. Next, we're going to try out Watch Dogs 1440p lowest settings on the Alienware. We're going to put everything on low. There we go, so graphics are all set on low. Let's see how fast we can get this at. 120 frames per second. Let's just have a little drive around, see how this goes. So I'm getting 103, 110, 80... Oh, 40. The frame rate on this is actually quite unpredictable. It's going up, then down, then up, and down. Now I'm getting 24. Now I'm back up to 60. So because the frame rate on this is so unpredictable, I'm going to have to try and average it at 130. So I pretty much, the lowest I got was about 100 and... Oh, now I'm getting 140? What? 150 frames per second? It's staying at a consistent above 100 right now. 120. So since it's going, it seems to mostly be going between 100 and 120. I'm gonna have to say it's an average of about 105 frames per second. Okay, let's bump everything up to ultra. Okay, so let's see. This is now ultra settings on Watch Dogs. Right now, 60 frames per second. Oh, it's terrible in here. Oh, 18, that was an awful turn. I've got to say, Watch Dogs really seems to be a game where the frame just drops and comes and drops and comes. It's got an unstable frame rate, to be honest. So I'm getting 60, 20, 60, 20. The average does seem to be about 60 now. I'm just a bit scared to say, hey, it's 60, so I'll just keep driving a bit longer. Overall, from what I've seen with the frame drops and it's coming back and forward and stuff like that, I'll have to say, yeah, 55. Okay, now we're going to record the screen. So I'm seeing right now frames of 40, 42 on ultra settings, 27, 30. Ugh. I just can't believe how the frames just come and go so badly. But I'm probably going to have to say about 50 here from what I've seen. It's going down to 40, then 55, kind of at 54 now, and it's staying at this a bit kind of stably. But I've got to admit, the graphics are actually pretty good with Watch Dogs. I guess I'm used to running everything on my old computer at the lowest settings, so I'm kind of like, oh, this looks kind of good. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to have to say 50 here. Yeah, it's an average of 50. It's going between 45 and 55. So for recording Watch Dogs ultra settings, I'm going to say that is a frame rate of 50 frames per second. Okay, so with Far Cry 3 on 1440p low settings here, I'm getting a frame rate of 22 frames per second. Let's put everything up to ultra. Okay, now my frame rate is about 10 frames per second. Oh, this is pretty bad. Let's try recording now. Now I'm getting around 8 frames per second. So overall, Far Cry 3 is going terribly on this computer. Anything under 10 frames, well, under 20 in my opinion, is pretty unplayable. Like, you turn around and look at the screen just going terrible. It's like so laggy. It's kind of like watching a bit of a slideshow rather than playing a game. Okay, here we go, Far Cry 3, lowest settings, and I am getting a frame rate of about 150 now as soon as I say that. I guess with these higher end systems, the frame rate must fluctuate a lot more, because I mean, so I'm probably going to say about 100 and, well, it depends where you're looking. You can't really say, hey, the frame rate is this. Worst of all is about over here at about 80 when you look here, and over here I'm getting 180, so I'll just have to say, I hate estimating here, but at least you guys can see where I'm getting these numbers from. I'm gonna have to say about 125, let's just say that. I never knew trying to find a frame rate would be so hard. Okay, now let's try out everything on ultra. So I'm getting around 70 to 80 here. Now let's look in that other direction. Down here, about 60. So between 80 and 60, I might just say an average of about 70. Okay, let's record. So here, the worst frame rate, what am I getting around here? I'm using a controller, by the way. Say around 56 around here, okay, and then what if I go down here? Oh, this is actually better, what? 57, so actually this is a very stable frame rate now when I'm recording it around here. So I'm probably gonna have to say, I might say 56. Yeah, 56 would be about what I'm getting. Okay, here we go. Unmodded Minecraft running at the lowest settings possible. Unfortunately, I can't do full screen because it will crash Java. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a new world here, and the seed will be OSFirstTimer. Frame rate is looking pretty good. I've got the frame rate limiter at 120 frames per second. And we are actually getting 120 frames per second here, so this is actually going really well. Now, let's try turning the settings up to maximum. So render distance, instead of 2 chunks, let's make that 32 chunks. Gonna turn particles all on, VSync on, entity shadows on, smooth lighting to a maximum, and fancy graphics. Clouds fast, no, clouds fancy. Let's see what kind of frame rate we're going to get here. Oh, actually, better than I actually thought. So here we're getting a frame rate of about 30 frames per second with maximum settings on Minecraft. It does kind of, it pops down a bit. So since it's going down between like 30 and 20, I might just say 25 here. Okay, I guess it depends on the way you're facing. Also, why is this not generating anything here? Oh, far out. Okay, well there's a huge error in the world, it won't generate anything there. So it actually appears that Minecraft is full on glitching out here, it's refusing to load the chunks properly. Oh, there we go, I've popped back up here again. So yeah, I'm going to say for this about 20 frames per second, because that's realistically what I'm getting here. 20 frames, yeah, 20, okay, 25 then. Now, if I'm recording, I'm getting, 13, 12... 14 actually, yeah, 14 frames per second on recording, which is pretty bad if you ask me. 14 frames. Yeah, okay, 14 frames per second it is. Okay, so Minecraft, same world and everything that I had before, and I'm getting a frame rate of 60 frames per second stable. Okay, so this is lowest settings, Minecraft, 1440p, lowest settings, stable frame rate of 60 frames per second. Same seed as the other world. Okay, let's bump the video settings up to the maximum render distance of 32 chunks. Turn all the smooth lighting and stuff on. Wow, look at how far I can see. That's awesome to be able to see so far. Okay, so the frame rate I'm getting here on Minecraft, I'd say average of 30, 24, 22. That bunny is freaky. 29. Overall, I've just got to say, Minecraft does... It's a bit annoying overall. Okay, Minecraft just crashed. This is Minecraft 1.8.1 for those wondering. Okay, so recording Minecraft at 1440p ultra settings. It's tricking me now. Now I'm getting like 40 frames per second. Gonna have a good walk around. Otherwise I'll never make up my mind. I mean, Minecraft and Watch Dogs have had the most unstable frame rates going up and down and up and down. I'm going to have to say, sorry, Minecraft keeps crashing, but I'll probably say about 25 to 30 there. Minecraft just keeps crashing though, so yeah. Okay, the next game, Grand Theft Auto 4, which was released in 2008, so it's pretty old, but it's always been one of those really difficult games to run. Right now, the resource usage on lowest settings, at this resolution 1440p, 463 out of 983. Let's run the automatic benchmark for this game. Okay, looks like we're getting about, we're getting 30, now we're getting 28. I might put it at about 30 frames here, because it's kind of bouncing, it's going down to the, like, you know, mid-20s and up to the mid-30s constantly. So I might put the frame rate here at 30 frames per second. Oh, well, there we go, it gave us some results anyway. There we go, there's the average, 29.58, so pretty much 30, okay. Let's try that again, but at a much higher setting. Okay, now let's put everything up as high as possible. So, texture quality to high, render quality to high, turn these draw distances up. I'm gonna run out of resource usage. Ah, there we go. I'm literally unable to set anything up any higher. Okay, well that, unfortunately, is the highest I can actually set this up at. High texture quality and render quality, but view distance is only at 36 and everything else is just stuck. So that's the highest we can go there. So I can't even get highest graphics on this, but let's see how this goes. Okay, this is interesting. I seem to be getting the same frame rate. No, there's definitely not much difference. The game is running pretty much the same as it was before. The average frame rate has just dropped pretty much 1 frame, and that's it. So that's actually quite a surprise there. Okay, so it's running at 30 frames per second, but every few seconds it keeps freezing on me. Yeah, not quite sure what to do here. This is very unstable. Okay, there we go. Nah, freezing again. Well, let's say I just keep it at this. Now let's start recording. Okay, drop to about 20 frames per second. There we go, so 20 frames per second recording, and about 32-ish at full speed. Although according to the benchmark, 28, so I'll say that. Okay, now when it comes to Grand Theft Auto 4, this game is having a lot of trouble on the Alienware. I'm guessing it's something to do with Windows 8.1. I got a lot of compatibility warnings when I tried to boot it up for the first time, and I've tried to update to the latest version of Games for Windows Live. This thing is just having a lot of trouble. So when you go to graphics settings, I think the game will run, but it's getting very worried. Like, it says, warning, your graphics settings are near or exceed the suggested resource limits for your system. It is recommended that you reduce the graphics settings in order to run it optimally. You can see the resolution is so low that looks terrible there. The resolution here is 800 by 600 being stretched across this, like, you know, 27-inch screen. Everything is pretty much on low or medium and stuff like that, and instead of detecting the 12 gig of RAM, it's only detecting 3 gig of RAM, so looks like we won't be able to do this one. As you can see, when I try and pop everything up, it just won't let me, and if I pop stuff down, yeah, it'll let me put stuff down, but then it won't let me put it back up again. Yeah, it's happy with me putting stuff on low, just not back up to medium again. So overall, it looks like we will not be able to test out Grand Theft Auto 4 on the Alienware. Okay, now we've got Fallout New Vegas at low settings, 1440p. Okay, well this is actually running really well. I'm getting a solid 60 frames per second here. Okay, not expecting much now. Okay, so I'm getting here about 40, yeah, it's going, oh, yeah, kind of 40, 28 now. It's funny, if I look this way, I get around 26 frames per second. If I look this way, I get about 40 frames per second, so it kind of depends on where you're looking, but I guess, because that's the edge of the map over there, I guess that's why I'm getting so many frames, so I'll base it on what I'm getting from this side, which is, let's say 25 frames per second on average. Now let's start recording this. Okay. So we're getting about 18 frames per second now, so overall, just out of that point where it's comfortably playable. I mean, it still is playable recording this at 1440p on this computer, but it certainly is a little bit uncomfortable, so 18 frames per second. Okay, 1440p, Alienware, lowest settings, Fallout New Vegas, and yeah, stable 60 frames per second no matter where I look. That's pretty good. So we will now try and bump up the settings. Now, ultra settings, and I'm actually still getting a pretty stable 60 frames per second. This is actually pretty insane. I didn't think I would get 60 frames per second here. This is up from 25 frames per second, so from 25 to 60, this is awesome. It does seem though that they have a cap at 60 frames per second. Okay, let's try recording. This is where I think it's going to fall apart. It can't possibly record at 60 frames per second. Yeah, okay, there we go. So I've had a drop down to 33, 35, 38. So I'm going to say about 35 frames per second recording here. But that's pretty good because that's up from 18 frames per second. So that's actually, you know, awesome to compare to what I had before. Okay, next we're going to try out Starbound. Now for the settings here, I'm going to call low quality as zoom level 4. The more you kind of zoom out here, zoom level 2 and stuff like that, the more you can see on the screen, but obviously the more resource intensive this is. So zoom level 4 is going to be our low quality settings for this game at 1440p, and our high quality is going to be zoom level of 2. Okay, so the frame rate I'm receiving here is actually perfect. I'm getting, oh, it dipped in to, okay, it seems to be mostly at around a frame rate of about 60 frames per second with the occasional dip down, as you can see if you keep looking up in the corner there. Ouch. So yeah, there we go, 60 frames per second is what I'm getting on my old computer for this game. This seems very, very easy to run. Like, my computer is not even, there's no lag here pretty much. 60 frames, let's try high settings. I can see a lot more on the screen now. Okay, I'm getting, this is amazing, I'm still getting 60 frames per second. Dip's actually becoming a little bit more common now. I'm seeing my frame rate at 55, 57, but yeah, it's still going very well. Oh, there we go, I had a little 47 for a moment, 45. Still, this is a great frame rate, so I'm guessing, okay, an average of about 50 now, with some other characters on the screen and stuff like that. It seems to be about an average of 50, it kind of went down to the 40s, so yeah, I'll say 50 for this. Now let's get fraps. Okay, yeah, this is where we're starting to die now here. The fraps on this game is really killing it. We're down at 24 frames per second here on these higher settings, which is pretty awful, 20, 28, 25. So yeah, we'll say it around that. Okay, next we've got Starbound, getting a stable 60 frames per second here on low settings. Now I'll bump it up to high settings. Okay, I'd probably put this at about, oh, actually no, it's keeping up with around 60. This is actually pretty good. But boy, it feels crazy trying to play like this because you can see so much of the world around you. You kind of feel a little bit out of the experience, to be honest. But yeah, I'm getting 60 frames per second with the occasional drop to 59 or 58. Since it's most of the time it really is on 60, I would have to say 60 here. Now let's record. Oops. Okay, recording, this is where it drops. So now my frame rate has gone down to about 32 frames per second. 30? Yeah, well, I might say 30 frames per second here. So when you record this Starbound, ultra settings, 30 frames per second on average here. And I'll be honest, 30 frames per second does seem a little bit laggy. I never used to think that was bad because I'm used to getting 30 frames per second, but now it's kind of like, oh. On the actual spaceship, I'm getting 37, but you have to kind of do it by what you get on the land, so I'll have to say 30 there. Okay, here we go. This is Saints Row 4 that we're going to be testing out. Everything is at low settings now, 1440p. Just in the menu here, I'm getting 17 frames a second, which is pretty terrible to be honest. I've got a problem, it won't run full screen. Okay, it's jumped up to 22 frames per second because I've just definitely put it on low now. At lowest settings, this game actually looks pretty good. So this is low settings and I'm only getting frame rates of about 25 frames per second. But this is 1440p of course, and unfortunately this game doesn't run full screen just because when I put it full screen it gets stuck in a reboot loop for some reason, so I just can't put this game full screen. But there we go, 25, oh, with a peak of 31 there, it's just gone to 30 frames per second, so that's pretty good. Let's try it on high settings. You've got medium, high, and ultra. So we're going to try this game on ultra settings now. Oh, this is so laggy, this menu. Oh my goodness, I can barely even move in this. Look at how laggy that is. Looks like there's a new superpower in this game. Slow motion. Oh, this is so slow. As if this isn't already bad enough, let's try and record this footage. Is it F6? Oh my goodness, there we go. Look at this, 5 frames per second. Oh my gosh, this is awful. Okay, out of that now. Okay, time for Saints Row 4, and I've got to admit, I love how a lot of these games have controller support. Like, I'm using a PlayStation 3 controller just to prove it, look at that. And I love how the games are actually remembering where I'm up to, like they're doing like cloud saving or something, and I'm just like, wow, it remembers exactly where I'm up to. So, let's have a little walk around now. I'm getting about 100... The thing about these higher frame rates is that they're not as stable as the lower frame rates. It kind of judders about a bit. I would say average about 115 frames per second here. This is definitely an improvement over the other computer where it was only 25 frames per second, so this is 115, that's fantastic. Now let's try it all on Ultra. Are you kidding me? Is it still on Ultra? It seems to be 100 and... the settings mustn't have changed. Let me have a little look at this. Yeah, so it looks like with Ultra settings, this is definitely Ultra. I'm not going crazy. It really did set the Ultra settings. I'm actually still getting a frame rate of around 115. Actually, yeah, the frame rate is pretty much identical to what it was before. So this is actually looking pretty good. Okay, so now let's try out recording. Yeah, this is where I'm getting the real drop frames here. On the other computer, I was getting 5 frames per second when I was recording. On this computer, oh, this is a tricky one. It's currently at 55, 30. I might have to say about an average of 40 frames per second on this computer. That's what it kind of looks like here. Let's get into a car. Oh, but now I'm up at 50. So, yeah, I'd say Saints Row 4 runs on Ultra settings while being recorded with fraps at about 45 frames per second. Okay, next we've got Blockscape. This is kind of a Minecraft clone, but with better graphics, but nowhere near as many features. But it's hard to explain. You could build a much better world, though, with Blockscape than you can with Minecraft. Because the world looks a lot more realistic and digging is more smooth and everything. So this is on low settings, 1440p. So right now, 1440p, low settings, I'm getting a frame rate of 14? This is pretty bad. Like seriously, 14 frames a second. This is all randomly generated, by the way, so like this is for something that's randomly generated. This is pretty incredible and beautiful. Like it's basically Minecraft, but better. See, here we go. See, this is actual digging taking place. You can dig these like block shapes just like you can in Minecraft, but you can also dig small like this, which really allows you to customize so much more. There's a lot more to this game than I'm showing though, but yeah, the average frame rate, I'm going to put it at about 17 here, 17 frames per second. Okay, now on high settings, like everything on quite high, this is more, it's actually not much less, it's about 10 frames per second. Okay, so 10 frames down from 17. Okay, and recording, well, okay, recording we're getting about 8 frames per second here. But yeah, recording doesn't really affect this game too much, just a drop of 2 frames, okay. This game just in general seems really hard to run. It's kind of ahead of its time, but it lacks heaps of features, so not the best here. I'll say 8, it's kind of flicking up a bit now, but yeah, I'd say about 8 frames per second recording. Okay, this exact moment I'm seeing 148 frames per second, up from 17 frames per second when we initially tried this. Oh my goodness, 180? Are you kidding me? Blockscape is now running oh okay, now it's dropped down to 120. But I've got to admit, Blockscape is running really well on the new Titan Z graphics card. On my old computer, it was pretty much unplayable, but on this computer, look at this. From an average of 17 frames per second, now I'm up to like 120. It's like running better than Minecraft. 120 frames per second, I would say, would be a good average to put here. So I mean, I'm getting between 140 and about 80 frames per second. So yeah, I'll say, oh, look at that randomly generated building there with those trees. Yeah, so I'm going to put 120 frames per second. Oh, now, well, when you go into these trees area, it gets quite lower actually. So how about, since I'm getting between 50 and 140, it just depends where you are really in the game. I mean, frame rate tests are pretty hard to determine, but an average of 80 frames per second is what I'll have to put this at. So this is 80 up from 17, which is fantastic. Now we're going to try everything on the high settings that you can do for 1440p. Let's see if it beats 10 frames per second. Oh, this looks, oh, the water looks fantastic. Look at that. And the grass. Oh my goodness. And look at the building up there. Blockscape just looks amazing, and it is really, like, I definitely recommend you have a look into it. Gameplay wise, it isn't what I'll call a fun game, but what you can create with it is just absolutely amazing. So oh, look at that red tree. Oh, this on ultra settings, look at that. You've got the lovely sun in the sky, the beautiful, what's the lowest I'm getting? I'm getting a low of about 60 frames per second would be the low, and the high, if I'm looking out here, I can get a pretty high frame rate. Might put this at 70, to be honest, because I mean 50's the lowest, but it's but I'm getting, okay, if you look at right up the sky, you're getting 330. Like, the frame rate here is just so, it changes depending on what you're looking at. So yeah, I might put this at 70 from average of what I'm getting when I'm kind of, you know, in the bushes and stuff over here. Thing is, I could easily say, hey, I could give this 80 again, but I'll put 70 because you're not going to be looking at the sky and out the islands the whole time. So frame rate for this, I would say 70. Now let's start recording. Yeah, this is where I'm getting a huge frame drop before. So before we were getting only 8 frames per second. Now I'm getting 20 around here. Let's go to the area we know it works best with. Yeah, Blockscape does not work well at all when you try and record it. So over here when I'm looking at the mountains, 25, 25 all around here. Looking up at the sky, maximum of 40. Yeah, this isn't looking good at all, so I might have to put an average of possibly even 20. Let me just get into these bushes here and see what we have. It's not really going much below 20. So between 25 and 18. How about I say about 21 based on this? Okay, so 21 frames per second when you've got Blockscape on ultra settings being recorded with Fraps. As you can see from these graphs, the Alienware computer absolutely blows my 4-year-old Lenovo ThinkStation off the floor, mainly due to the Titan Z graphics card. The performance difference in Saints Row 4 and Blockscape was especially interesting. Anyway, let's move on to some basic benchmark tests. Now we are going to do the TerraGen 3 benchmark scene render test. Whichever computer can render the scene the fastest wins. As you can see from the fast timers, I have sped up the speed of these videos as this test typically takes several minutes to complete. You can see here that the Alienware computer is dramatically faster at rendering since it is starting to render the scene nicely rather than just placing a bunch of small points like the Lenovo is still doing. TerraGen 3 is a powerful solution for rendering and animating realistic natural environments. Create entire worlds from your imagination or import real-world terrain datasets and use TerraGen 3 to create the most realistic visualizations possible. You control the weather, landscape, rivers, lakes and oceans, suns, moons and stars. With TerraGen 3 you have complete control over the shader networks used for terrains, textures, micro-polygon displacements, clouds and object distributions. You can reorganize the planetary shading pipeline to suit your goals. Place grass and trees everywhere you want. And there we go, Alienware done, Lenovo still going. As you can see, the Lenovo is taking so long it broke my timer, which is limited to 10 minutes. Anyway, finishing up now, you can see the Lenovo took 11 minutes and 7 seconds. There isn't much eye candy in the next test, but here I use HyperPy to calculate the value of pi to 4 million decimal places. My old computer with the Intel Xeon W3680 processor with 6 cores running at 3.33 GHz was able to calculate pi to 4 million decimal places in 1 minute and 36 seconds. My new Alienware with the Intel Core i7-5960X with 8 cores overclocked to 4 GHz was able to do the same calculation in just 1 minute and 7 seconds. So overall, the Alienware computer was about 30% faster in this test. Next we have the free all-in-one Nova Bench benchmark test. The higher the score here, the better the computer is. After testing the CPU, RAM, hard disks and 3D performance, my final score on the Lenovo computer was 1429. The same tests were then completed on the Alienware computer, leaving me with a final and awesome score of 2511. Next up is PC Mark 8, which unfortunately won't run on my old Lenovo due to the lack of Internet Explorer 10, which I can't install since I don't have Service Pack 1 for Windows 7, which I also can't install without wiping my hard drive due to some corrupted Windows 7 files preventing me from updating the operating system. In the end, I decided to share the results of testing PC Mark 8 on my new Alienware computer with you guys anyway, even though I have no results to compare it with. My Alienware got a final score of 4,559 on the PC Mark Home Accelerated Test 3.0. It got 5,780 on the Creative Accelerated Test. And finally, a score of 4,590 on the Work Accelerated 2.0 test. Next up is the Heaven Benchmark 4.0 on Ultra settings. As we fly through this magical steampunk world of shiny brass wooden gears, you will see that it's just too much for my Lenovo, struggling along at 4 frames per second, while the Alienware feels the cool breeze and manages to blow out an almost 50 frames per second. Sadly, my Lenovo crashes before displaying the final result, but my Alienware made it through the entire test without a problem. The Alienware scored 1,241 points with a minimum frame rate of 7.8 frames per second and a maximum of 112.8 frames per second. Before we move on, here is a little data sheet of all the benchmarks. Next up, I'll do some extra tests on my computer to see if it works well as a Bitcoin miner, how good it is at video rendering, and what it's like to use with the Oculus Rift. I use my computer to edit and render videos more than anything else, so in this test I see how fast Sony Vegas Pro can render an unedited 10-minute video of the unboxing at 30 frames per second. Only 2 minutes of this 10-minute video was used in the unboxing. If you look to the right, you'll notice me leave the chair multiple times. First to move washing out of the way, then to close a blind, and then again to open another one. Once again to move the camera back a little. And then a final time to adjust the height of it. As you can see, my videos are very messy unedited, which is why I edit them extensively. Anyway, the Alienware finished rendering the 10-minute video in 8 minutes and 57 seconds, while the Lenovo took 21 minutes and 13 seconds. So overall, for a single layered video, the Alienware kicks ass. I also tried rendering the last episode of OSFirstTimer on the Alienware, which is a multi-layer video with the chroma key effect applied. The video is 23 minutes long and took the Lenovo 1 hour and 4 minutes to render. The Alienware was able to render it in just under 40 minutes. This will save me loads of time rendering all my videos in future. Now let's move on to checking out how the Oculus Rift DK2 performs on my Lenovo, followed by the Alienware. My old computer runs the Oculus Rift very, very poorly. Just as an example today, we're going to be trying out new Retro Arcade. Pretty much half the demos on the Oculus Rift DK2 here won't even work on my computer. A lot of the time I'm having to force them to run under DirectX 9 and all of that stuff so they actually will run at all. Overall, trying to run stuff on this is a nightmare. There's so much stutter. You're supposed to be getting 75 frames per second. I'm only pretty much getting 20 if I'm lucky. So what I'm going to try and do is I'll just try this one game, new Retro Arcade, running at ultra settings. Let's just see how this goes, and I'll tell you the frame rate. Okay, turning my head, this is very, very sickening. As I look around, I can barely even do that. As I look around, all I'm just seeing is, it's like low frame rate and judder everywhere. So just so you know how fast this is running, it is running at 16 frames per second. It looks great when you're just standing still, but oh my gosh, when you move and you look around, oh, it is just sickening. That's all I can take there. Overall, virtual reality just makes me sick in general, because I suffer from bus sick, motion sickness, and virtual reality sickness, which is known as VR sickness. The Oculus Rift on my current computer is a no-go, which is part of the reason why I cancelled the Astral Phaser channel. But with my new computer now, I should be reviving that channel, and I'll be doing more Oculus Rift videos on Astral Phaser on YouTube. Anyway, let's see if my new computer can beat 16 frames per second on the Oculus Rift 2 in new Retro Arcade at ultra settings. Okay, now it's time to try out the Oculus Rift with the Alienware Area 51. This is going to be a little bit nuts because I'm not going to sit down. I'm going to stand up, and you're not supposed to, so don't try this at home. But I just want to show you the situation I'm currently in. My room is an absolute mess. I'm in the middle of renovating here. The renovations are going to go on for 2 weeks. I won't be able to use my room whatsoever. So yeah, this is just a temporary computer setup here. Then I won't be able to use it for 4 weeks. So if you're wondering where another OSFirstTimer video is, this is the reason. You won't see one for quite a while. Yeah, Oculus say Oculus Rift is a sitting experience. I'm just taking advantage of the fact that I've got no furniture in my room. So I've got a lot of room and I want to test out what this camera's like from long distance and stuff like that. So I'm going to get started right now. How far back can I go? I just need to see. A long way. Okay, let's try this out. I'm just going to try out the desk demo. Now I've got to say this is amazing, but unfortunately, when I'm recording with fraps, I'm getting judder. So, I'm going to have to turn the fraps recording off. Let me see now. Yeah, now it's dead smooth. I'm literally... This is like real life. Seriously, oh my goodness. Being able to stand up and see this desk here in front of me. Let me try and get you guys seeing it though. Fraps absolutely kills the virtual reality experience, unfortunately, so we'll give action a go and see if that records any better. Okay, here we go. Let's try out the Oculus now. Oh wow, that is perfect. Okay, just so you know, if you use action to record rather than fraps, the performance you get is a lot better, okay? So definitely use action instead of fraps, at least for the demo desk scene. But, oh my gosh, I've just got to say, this is just incredible. That chair's in the way, yes, but like, I can step out. I just walked into something. I'm just going to be very careful when I walk around, but... Oh my gosh, being able to bend down and look around and walk forward, and I'm walking towards a desk and walking backwards, and I'm leaning, ouch. I'm hurting myself in the process, but this is just an amazing experience. Like, this is literally, if I could get rid of this cord here is annoying me. If I could get rid of that and just be in the Oculus world without the cord, also, there's no head tracking on the back here, which is annoying, but if this cord wasn't here, this is perfect. This is literally perfect virtual reality. Being able to walk around, walk towards things, except I am walking into things. Literally, that plant is there, okay? There is a plant in front of me. If I take a step towards the plant, I've literally taken, oh my gosh, you've got to try the Oculus Rift standing up one day. It's just the most amazing experience. I'm walking around in 3D space. I didn't even... You're not supposed to do this with the Oculus. This is just the head, you know, the leaning backwards and forth head tracking feature like this. That's what this is for. But I'm actually using this to my advantage to walk around a 3D space. Oh my gosh, this Oculus is amazing. You know what? I could stay here forever just walking around this 3D space. I'm not feeling sick. I suffer from motion sickness, virtual reality sickness, every sickness you can think of. Well, not every sickness, don't worry. But seriously, I'm walking around. That desk is in the actual same place as my desk. So I'm bending, ouch. I'm bending down and I'm touching the desk. Oh, this is just amazing. To stand this far away from my desk, then walk towards it. I'm going to try this now with New Retro Arcade. Okay, so I am now in New Retro Arcade. Guess what? There is not a wincy... I'm looking at a plant. There is not any judder whatsoever. Out of the box, the Oculus Rift is working perfectly fine with this computer. Oh my gosh, I can walk towards the plant. I can walk back. Far out, the Oculus Rift is an amazing standing experience, but don't try this at home. It's not actually a standing experience. It's supposed to be sitting only, but I swear with the current SDK 0.4.4, you literally could make a walking experience. If this cord wasn't here and this computer, this Alienware, was built into this headset, then virtual reality would be absolutely perfect. But we would need to do it in big places, like you would need to do virtual reality in a big baseball, like an open field where there's nothing around you so you can walk on for ages, because this really works. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to be a little crazy here. I'm going to pick up my keyboard, because this is the only way I'm going to be able to control myself. And what is the frame rate? I saw 75 frames per second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk down here. Oh, wow. Oh yeah, there we go, 72 frames per second. It is working without judder. This is amazing. Oh my gosh, do you know how amazing? Oh, okay, a bit of judder there. But that could be because I'm recording. What's my frame rate? 60, oh, okay, I'm dropping down into the 60s here. Slight bit of judder, but nowhere near as bad as what it was before. Do you know what it's like just walking around, seeing this arcade? Oh wow, this is just incredible. Okay, let's find a game to play. Wait. Okay, let's start this. E. Okay, here I am. Dang. I really feel like I'm at an arcade machine here. Okay, can I just say, it really feels right now like I am standing in an arcade machine room. This is just amazing. And here I am in front of this arcade machine. Anyway, oh, is this what way I'm facing? Oh my gosh, I was so immersed that I didn't know what direction I was facing. I thought this was my computer there. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me face my computer again. Let me just see what it's like walking towards something. Oh my gosh, do you know what it's like right now? Stepping sideways and slowly making my way out of the room. And then, okay, there's a machine. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna walk towards this arcade machine. And like, I'm moving towards it. If I had a 365 degree, like, you know, those Omni things and all of that, oh, this would just be amazing. Imagine just being able to walk infinitely with a 3D treadmill. Oh my gosh. Oh, the full version of the Oculus Rift is gonna be amazing. So if you want to run the Oculus Rift perfectly, full frames per second, definitely try out this here. I did get a little bit of judder, to be honest. But apart from that judder, it is a perfect experience. High frame rate. Not as much judder, not nearly as much as I had before. I just want to try out one more demo. I'm just going to try out cyberspace. You can't see this, but I just want to see if on my old computer it's like a kind of a scary ride where you get flipped upside down and stuff. I just want to see if it works on this with DirectX 11, because my other computer didn't have DirectX 11. The sky was black and it didn't work properly. I'm just going to do a little test and tell you what it's like. Oh yes, there's no judder. Oh, but my head's out of my body. This is a perfect experience. I've got absolutely, oh my god. Oh my gosh. Okay, can I just, oh my gosh, I don't want to fall here. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Far out. Okay, cyberspace works, no judder. If you want a really, really good Oculus Rift experience, I highly recommend the Alienware Area 51 computer, because this thing runs the Oculus Rift like a beast. I'm getting barely any judder, 75 frames per second pretty much. It is the perfect Oculus experience. I just want to remind you a final time though, that you should not ever use the Oculus Rift DK2 or DK1 while standing up. Okay, Oculus have said it is a sitting experience. Just because I've done it, it doesn't mean you should do it, okay? If I got hurt now, let's say I walked backwards too far, my Alienware computer fell on me and killed me, well, I would be dead, but that would not be Oculus's fault, it would be my own fault for not listening to them. So please, if you do decide to stand up while using the Oculus Rift, and yes, it is an amazing experience, you walk forward, 1 foot forward is like walking 1 step forward in the virtual world. Even though that's fun, if you do it, don't blame me or Oculus after you die. Or injure yourself. You can't really blame me after you die. But don't get anyone to blame me after you die or you get heavily injured, okay? It's a sitting experience. Okay, next we're going to try out some bit mining. We're going to be using Bitminter to be specific. Bit mining, though, is something I would never actually do because it's just something you can't really make money with. The money you make bit mining is actually going to be less than the amount of money it requires in electricity just to run your computer while it's doing this. So don't even bother doing this, in my opinion, unless you've got the most powerfulest machine and you calculate that electricity is cheaper and stuff, but it just gets harder and harder and harder as time goes on. It's not really a valuable thing to be doing, but let's just see the speed here. Okay, so my speed here is around 27 mhps. Yeah, this is pretty hopeless. Let's stop that now. Okay, now we're going to try out Bitminter again, so we're going to try and mine some bitcoins here. Now let's see the hash rate speed once again. The old computer, as you know, it only mined with one GPU. Obviously the Nvidia Quattro 3800FX only counts as one GPU with 1 gig of video RAM on the old computer. Let's check out what the new computer does. Now remember, it can do 2 engines now. This, it says at the top, GeForce GTX Titan #1, and it's also got #2. So let's try out just one of them first and see how that goes. Engine start. Okay, it's going up, it's going up. Oh, it's past the 20 something. Whoa, it's already in the... Oh, there we go. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? 235. And that's just one. And that already beats my old one. Now let's start up the next one. And these are running in conjunction with each other. So this is pretty cool. So look at that. Now I'll show you the total. Just run this in performance mode. That just makes it run a little bit faster. Now you can see here that the speed is about 400 and, well, it was 438 before, it's 401 now. It's kind of going up, but overall let's just say over 400, which is a lot better than my old computer that could only do it at 27. Unfortunately, each GPU here is only going to be able to make about 0.0001 bitcoins per month, so overall that's 0.0002 bitcoins per month, which isn't actually too good at all. That's about 8 Australian cents per month, which, you know, electricity, it's still useless to mine bitcoins, even on a computer as powerful as this. You really need these dedicated bit mining machines. See how I'm doing it like 400 mHps? The hash rate on these expensive machines, you can buy one for like $6,000, I know, but you can do 1 tera or something. The hash rate of my computer is like 0.4 GHps, while the speed of one of those professional machines will be about 1000 GHps rather than 0.4. So they're, you know, 1,000 times more efficient. So you would want to use a machine like that rather than a machine like this. A general computer is not good for mining bitcoins. Not even this like super Alienware computer can do it. So you definitely are going to need a dedicated bit mining device if you're actually interested in mining bitcoins. I myself am not interested whatsoever. One thing I'd like to point out here is that the Wi-Fi card inside the Alienware must be absolutely fantastic, because as you can see, it's got all 5 bars of signal strength here, yet on my Surface Pro and most other devices, I'm only generally getting 3 or 2 bars in this exact same spot. Okay, I've loaded up a lot of the software I use on my computer on a day-to-day basis. I'll just quickly show you what software I use, and then we're going to do the boot test again. Okay, so the software I use on a daily basis would be Action Screen Recorder, this program right now that just happens to be recording the screen, along with Fraps. The reason I use Fraps as well as Action is because I find Fraps is a lot better for keeping the video and audio in sync. I never have any sync issues with Fraps. However, with Action, I sometimes do have sync issues. However, there are situations in which I need to use Action over Fraps because, for example, recording the desktop, unfortunately with Windows 8.1, it won't work. I'll quickly show you the PC properties here just to show you I'm not lying about the specs. As you can see, it says Windows 8.1 Pro. The processor is the Core i7-5960X CPU. Now it says at 3.00 GHz, and I know it's an 8-core processor, but that confuses me because I thought they overclocked it to 4 GHz. So potentially they forgot to overclock this computer, but I might just be reading it wrong. So that's that. Next we've got the installed RAM, 32 gig of RAM. There we go, not lying about that. 3.19 usable, 64-bit operating system. Now let's just monitor the performance. Just showing you, my computer pretty much isn't doing anything at all right now. It's just sitting around doing nothing. Seriously, look, I've just got Action recording the screen, Fraps is just sitting open, and Task Manager's open. Just that alone uses 2.5 gig of RAM. I don't understand people who say on their computers that they only use 1 gig of RAM using Windows 7 or Windows 8. I don't see that, and how a person could survive on a laptop with 2 gigabytes of RAM when in use Windows 8 and Windows 7, generally from what I've seen, use over 2 gigabytes of RAM. So I don't know what people are talking about. My other computer generally uses about 3.2 gigabytes on idle with Windows 7, so so this uses a little less than my old computer, but of course if I'm doing stuff like video editing, yeah, it'll go around to about 10 gig of RAM in use and stuff like that. Overall, 32 gig of RAM is going to give me plenty. I don't feel I'll ever run out in the next, you know, good 8 years from now. I think that'll be good to keep me going without limiting me whatsoever. I'm also a user of Sony Vegas Pro 13. Previously I used to use 12, but when I bought this computer, we bought the new license to get Sony Vegas 13. I also use VMware Workstation 11. In the past I used 8, but when I got my new computer, once again, I've updated to the latest version. I'm just showing you what this program is. If you don't know what VMware Workstation is, it allows you to run virtual machines. Let me just give you an example. Let's say you wanted to run a Windows virtual machine. Here you go, you can run Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7, Vista, 3.1. You can even run operating systems. If you just click Other, you can, and just click Other 64-bit, you can run any operating system pretty much from what I've seen with VMware Workstation, but these ones just have extra support and like VMware tools and that kind of thing. You can also run Linux operating systems on it. That's good to see here that it's got support for the 3.x kernel now. VMware 8 didn't have support for the 3.x kernel, so that's handy. I also use Word and Excel. Now, if you're wondering why it's saying, oh, you haven't activated this product yet, it's just because I put the installer disk in and I've got to transfer the product key off my old computer to this new computer, but I won't be doing the transfer of the Office 2013 product key until my new computer is completely out of use, because I'll still need to use Microsoft Word and stuff on my old computer until I've actually got this computer ready in early January, ready to use and transfer everything fully off my old computer onto this new computer. I've also got AxiTrader down there for some investments. I've also got Fireworks down here, Adobe Fireworks, just for graphics editing and that kind of stuff like that when I want to make an image and put things in certain places. And I've also got Adobe Photoshop as well for editing photos. And just in case you're wondering why I don't have any desktop icons, I just find desktop icons always a lot of clutter for me. And I end up storing everything on the desktop, and then it just becomes, you know, my whole desktop, I'll just have a bunch of icons on it with everything. And I just think that looks really cluttered and it just doesn't feel right. So what I do with my computer now, it's my new rule, all my folders and files and stuff like that I'll store in Windows Explorer. I'll store it not on the desktop, just somewhere in a folder in Documents or on a hard drive in here or something like that. And if I've got a program that I want to shortcut to, then I'll just have it on the Windows 8 bar down the bottom here. So by doing this, I get the desktop nice and uncluttered, yet I have all my programs down here at the bottom, so it's easier to access them when I need to. We're going to be testing the boot time of this computer now with all my software on it, and the boot test of how it was when I first got it. So we're going to see if the boot time goes now below 11.8 seconds now that I've got all my software on the computer. Start. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to be ready to click on Firefox. It should auto sign in this time, and then I'll click stop the moment I see Google appear. Oh, okay, there we go. This is up. Stop. Okay, oh my goodness, this thing, I must have just clicked it faster or something this time. I don't know, but that boot time was awesome. Look at that. 10.76 seconds. This computer is ultra fast. It's literally a 10-second boot. Oh my goodness. Even with all these programs I've installed on it, it is still blazing fast, and somehow it might even be slightly faster unless I've been clicking Firefox slower the first time around or something like that. But whatever the case, me installing this software did not seem to slow down the computer whatsoever. So now let's see if the Alienware takes longer to shut down now with all my software on it. Go. Stop. The shutdown time actually has not been altered whatsoever. It is still 6.9 seconds. Overall, it seems like the Alienware has held up very well against all my programs, and it is no slower at shutting down. So after going through all these benchmarks and using the computer for a while, I've got to say that this computer is absolutely awesome. It runs games fantastically. It's better at work than my workstation, and it looks fantastic lit up at night. It boots and shuts down ultra fast and runs the Oculus Rift DK2 judder-free, unless of course you are screen recording the gameplay. The only reason I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 star rating is due to it being ridiculously heavy and enormous. It's also quite a hassle to have a 15 amp PowerPoint installed just to use this computer, but with a computer so powerful, I guess you can't really help these things. Overall, if you want a computer with breathtaking performance and don't care about how big and heavy it is or the price, then the Alienware Area 51 maxed out is certainly the perfect computer for you. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I look forward to making more videos in future.